And then the third and final part that got me really thinking is this definition of psychedelic renaissance, how a lot of folks like to claim that we are in a psychedelic renaissance. I do agree with the author. It's more should be a psychedelic revolution. Um, when we think of the similarities of how psychedelics coming back and how it was in the 60s. In the 60s, it was geared towards white folks, a lot of privileged folks, young kids in college dropping out. But I would also assume there's a lot of military veterans who were a bit traumatized. And so they were seeing help. And we also know that in the 50s and all the way up to the 70s, there's a lot of psychedelic therapy that was being provided to a certain class of folks. So now, fast forward to when this renaissance came in the last 10 or so years, we are seeing that same repeat. And I do like how the author highlighted that a lot of this scientific studies nowadays is a lot of white bodies, i.e. white trauma, that's being healed, and that's where all this breakthrough miracle hype is coming from. It's from their results. Yeah, like I'm not negating that they have trauma or anything or they have addictions, because we know white folks like their drugs and whatnot, but it doesn't matter. It's the bodies, and the bodies are getting help. And so where is this help for us Black folks? Like we carry a lot of trauma, but also we carry a lot of shame towards substances, and rightfully so. But now it's just more so changing the narrative into an actual truth. Like these medicines do heal. I am living embodiment of it. I was born in war. My mother had war traumas that she obviously did not get any help, and she inflicted her suffering onto me and passed it down. So with like mushrooms, you're able to go back in time. You close your eyes and you're back in your mother's womb, and you see that the birth cycle started, and that's what life is. It started in the womb. So once we heal our own wombs, ladies and folks, we can hopefully heal the world. But anyway, I'm getting off on a topic, but back to why it should be a revolution. Yeah, it goes like this. The reason why I have my notes here, the reason why it's revolutionary, or it should be, it's because it's for everyone. And so right now, a lot of that renaissance is geared towards people who have money. Like in Toronto, there's legal ketamine clinics. Ketamine is another psychedelic kind of like substance that has healing properties. But if you want a legal therapy here, it could cost you upwards to like $5,000. Whereas if you go on the street, you can get the same equivalent dose for like maybe $100, depending on your area. So yeah, like it's the same drugs. Like, either one is being done in a therapeutic medical model setting, or the other one folks are taking at parties or even at their own homes, But the point is, those are the same chemical compounds providing healing, but in two different modalities. And essentially, I think that's what the author was also drawing up on. And so now when we think of this present day, we can see how the medical model and the Renaissance is tied together, but also the war on drugs and the fact that folks who don't have that financial mean are forced to go find a good dealer and pray that they have a clean drug, a clean ketamine, a clean LSD, or if you have money, you can just chill out 10K and just chill in a nice bougie 4x4 wall disconnected from nature. Or you could dance and heal out with the collective out in the forest. But anyhow, I feel like that's what the point of a revolution is, not a renaissance. But let's consider what the author has. So he goes like, considering these risks, the medical model does come with safety protocols and erases some of the drugs, the war on drugs era stigma. But it does collateral damage to the revolutionary politics of the 60s. And so, as I said earlier, in the 60s, yes, psychedelics came back, but there's also a lot of revolutionary changes with all those protests that saw changes. And now here we are, at least in America, they're trying to undo it. But Mother Nature said, no, 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 psychedelics is coming. And so then we are seeing now in present day, the Black folks who are doing psychedelics are obviously people who have money, but are also in the pop culture sphere, you know? Like you see Will Smith, you see Mike Tyson, like these are men, obviously, like I don't quote me on their upbringing, but like they've seen some stuff, you know? And they're all saying the same thing, like they're getting healed from it. Because it shatters that ego and it reveals that we're all the same, despite our own upbringings. So, to be historically relevant to the 21st century human crisis, the psychedelic renaissance must become a psychedelic revolution. Activists, scientists, identity hustlers, and new age seekers must turn from the internecine squabbles over medicine as a billion-dollar business monetizes healing. Whole frames of references, the rhetoric in play, organizational forms will have to be jettisoned to make space for a new relationship to psychedelics, more importantly, to the raw, volatile hope that they call to the surface. So essentially, it's saying that once psychedelics become mainstream and it breaks free from that white Western grasp, and that we actually, especially indigenous folks whose connection was cut off because colonizers came and saw that they were using mushrooms and were like, what the fuck are you doing? Our Bible's the best. Eat this cracker. You know? So like those friggin' Christian folks and like even like Islam, they demonize it. Like the Abrahamic religions, they really demonize psychedelics. And once we get back to nature, we're going to see where religion stands at the end of this. My personal opinion is religion's going to crumble, because the fact is, like, psychedelics is spiritual medicine. It's you and your spirit. It's your consciousness. It's the key to unlocking who you are, but who's so like, what the fuck are we doing here, you know? And a lot of indigenous folks, even like ancient cultures, they believe that these are portals, like these are keys to the afterworld, to the spiritual, like, you know? And I do agree with that perspective, hence why you must respect them. This is not something you just take with alcohol and have fun. Mm-mm. No, no, no. This is like the universe in the palm of our hands that we just gotta, take, ingest. But anyway, I'm getting off on a bit of a tangent, but I kind of like it. You know, I just wanted to say, like, you know, like, this renaissance is more of a revolution, especially because once we realize that, like, psychedelics is for everyone, and there's, like, good tons of folks who don't understand what these things are. They have been indoctrinated with propaganda, either from religion or from the actual war on drugs propaganda that was led by religious folks, that was leading governments. Hence why you should get rid of any religious folks. You should be secular. But anyhow, yeah, so this whole framework of like trying to do a neat package and trying to keep society still, it's not gonna work, you know? We saw in the 60s that when psychedelics came, also was a lot of revolutionary changes. The Civil War, no, not the Civil War, sorry, the Civil Rights, anti-war, climate change, and environmental regulation, women's rights, gay rights. All of these different rights, it freaked the establishment, and it freaked the establishment more when they saw the next generation of white folks did not want to partake in that idea of colonizing and, like, you know, what their previous generation has been doing since like the last almost thousands of years, you know, like whenever fucking they started leaving their countries and realizing that there's boats that they can travel, even though black folks have been sailing the seas, we just never colonized, we cooperated because we were beings, you know. Anyhow, yeah, lost my thought there. But yeah, so like to be a renaissance is to hold this movement back, is to gatekeep who is healing for money. And big pharma is gonna collapse too. Religion and big pharma. So to realize the vision, a new playbook has to be written that presumes legalized psychedelics and maps the next step. The psychedelic renaissance is in the same position to political struggle as a utopian socialism was to revolutionary socialism. It assumes public access to a quantifiable proven good. In this case, MDMA enhanced therapy can, on its own, attract the masses and elite into a peaceful transcendence. Psychedelic utopianism is only now, after pressure from Black and Latino, Asian and Indigenous and queer and disabled, non-binary and socialist explorers, edging to a fuller understanding of a different healing methods that can reach more people. But it's not enough. And for me, the reason why it's not enough, it's like, where is the studies? Where is the studies with a lot of like black folks, like folks who were born in war, you know, or like folks who have and you know, like trauma from racism, sexual trauma, being suppressed due to religion, like all of this different sort of traumas, and also the different time periods that it impacted, you know, like from like 0 to 10. If you experience early traumas from like especially 0 to 5, it's gonna shape you differently than if you experience trauma at a later stage of life, like say like 13 and upwards, you know, like from 13 and from like 0 to 13, like you had a relatively stable upbringing, but something happened after 13. It's gonna impact you then differently than if your literal start to life was chaotic. But the beautiful thing about psychedelics is like it knows what it's doing. It knows what the mind needs. It knows where to target. And I feel like that's what the author is trying to get at. It's just don't limit this medical model to one substance, to MDMA, to psilocybin, to LSD. There is a plethora of other psychedelics. There is some that last 5 minutes, DMT. You smoke and you're off, and it still provides therapeutic things for you, you know, therapeutic healing. There is Bufo, 5-MeO DMT. That's roughly 20 minutes. That is for the brave. That is total ego dissolution. And that is just 20 minutes of your time. Or there is commitment. If you are want to know the cosmos all the way up to the early humans, and that will be like 3 days. That's a 3-day trip. That's ibogaine, but that is also good for people who are struggling or addicted to opioids. Like that is like the only known psychedelic that is proven to get rid of withdrawals the next day, which is like when we think about it now, we think of like folks who are addicted to opioids that like they're doomed to like suffer, and for especially from withdrawal. But there's this medicine, this psychedelic out all the way in West Africa that could alleviate that withdrawal within 3 days of a trip. But yeah, it's just to say like now we need to open those discussions up and heal the community. Anyhow, I went on another tangent there. We love it. But why it should be revolutionary. The psychedelic renaissance becomes the psychedelic revolution when it serves the multiracial working class. It really is that simple. When workers win, we win. Hey, I'm pretty sure Karl Marx is trying to push for us to do psychedelics too, because that's what Karl Marx talks about. Working class all over unite around psychedelics and see that you don't need to put your body through suffering, that you don't need to be condemned to where you are because you think you're of a certain class, or like it's pointless, or this is just where we are, you know? And I think that's what the author was trying to get at. Essentially, every working class folks, this is our birthright. This is our human right. This is for humanity, you know? And it's not haram. You're not going to be condemned to life. Like, if you really think about it, Muslims are going to be like, it's haram, you're going to hell. Like, you really think the same Allah that Muhammad, who says is a messenger, this Allah didn't tell him, hey, by the way, we have these medicines that you can communicate with me anytime you want. No, but instead he had to tell you it's haram, even though he said alcohol, but that has been tied to anything that changes your mind. Alcohol intoxication is not the same as a LSD intoxication. No. If LSD is altering you, alcohol is destroying you. Okay, so yeah, you know, and so this Renaissance, it's geared towards people who have money. Even like the name, like the word Renaissance sounds so rich, so bougie. Oh, it's a psychedelic Renaissance, whereas like a psychedelic revolution sounds like, yeah, we're about to fuck shit down. Like the upper folks better be scared, you know? You thought the French Revolution was bad? The psychedelic revolution's coming for ya. We're gonna eat the rich, especially with like now that they want to do AI. Speaking of AI, I really think like these rich folks trying to like mimic psychedelics. If you want artificial dimension, do psychedelics. Like, I kid you not, those are portals to different dimensions, but you gotta respect it. I wouldn't do it carelessly. No. But here's like AI, you put these goddamn goggle virtual realities. Ooh, no. Give me psilocybin mushroom and a blindfold, and I'm gonna go inside my mind and see the universe, you know, and maybe dance. But anyway, that's it. Like, you know, I really appreciate this book, this author, the Black Psychedelic Revolution. I really do hope to see more folks, especially Black folks, get into this wonderful revolution that's about to start, you know. If I had to pick industries that would crumble, I already said religion, I said big pharma. You know, psychedelics is not something you take every single day. You just need it like at most on an extreme dose, like once a month, maybe twice a month, like, you know, like bi-weekly. And so if that's like the extreme end where like you're really, I don't want to say really fucked up, because I was there at one point, but like, you know, if you really need it like every 2 weeks, that is like, let's do the math. 2 times a month, there's 12 months, that's like 24 psychedelic trips. That's like the most on the high end compared to daily pills you have to take for your SSRIs or whatever one, you know. So pick your poison. At least one comes from the ground and the other is man-made and your body does not like. At least that was my choice. I remember my first panic attack, they're like, here, take these pills. I think it was Xanax or Ativan. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. And then I discovered cannabis, and then I discovered psychedelics, and then I realized, god damn, I got healing to do, and this is fun. But yeah, I went on another tangent. I feel like we did really good. 3 different tangents. I told you this is going to be chaotic because it's not really thought through. It's just I had those 3 points, which maybe I should recap. The first one is return to body. I return to my body, you know. I'm not saying everybody's gonna lose weight, but Ozempic, that's another industry. If you want to lose weight, that's how I lost weight, with cannabis and psychedelics. no slim fast, no crazy diets. I love my food. I love my carbs. I switch carbs though, no white carbs. I mean, not like them white folks. Sorry, that came out. I don't know what accent that was. Yeah, so the point where return to body and then rejecting the medical model, and it's not a renaissance, it's a revolution, baby. The psychedelic revolution. You thought the French Revolution was bad. Where psychedelics is coming for you, the psychedelic revolution. No, but it's gonna be black though. It's black psychedelic revolution. Anyways, we can drop our pens. This is a chaotic class lesson because life less N when you heal. And so, oh wait, no, it's strife less N. No, strife less N when you heal. See, I told you this is chaotic. This is on brand. I love it. Anyways, it is Lotus Ubax. Yeah, thank you for watching Healing with Yoga and Creativity. Continue healing. Here we go.